this is on a couple things. One is the most important thing we do is practice. The most important thing I think anybody does is practice, and you know, and all those skills that and you know, emphasis, attitude, and all those things. Really, that Coach McCarney talked about kind of comes into, you know, what I'm talking about, because that's where it's all reinforced is during practice. As a team, we spend some time every year looking at scheme. We typically don't wholesale change plays as much as adjust them, add a technique, figure out a way to drill them more specifically, figure out how to be more precise in how we teach the stuff. So we spend more time really thinking about practice and organizing practice than we do scheme, because but you know, what we select and what we choose to do, we try to rep it as often as we can and be as sharp and specific at it as we possibly can. And so and what I'm most curious about, what other people do really, is how they practice. You know, how do you organize your week? Everybody gets so many hours in the week, and there's a fine line between what's too much and what's too little, where you're going to get the most out of people, where the breaking point is. So a real quick summary of how our week goes. This would be a game week. Now, one thing, compared to most other teams, our spring practices are longer than most teams. You know, we get our money's worth during spring because there's a day's rest in between. You're not really saving their legs for a game, and then you have the opportunity to work a bunch of young guys. And so, and you know, in the course of spring, we'll have 2 pass skills going on simultaneously, 2 one-on-one drills going on simultaneously, and so we try to cover as much ground as we can and rep as many people as we can. During the season, our practices are shorter than most people's. We're not, the teams I've been on haven't always been as deep as a lot of our opponents. In other words, you know, we're about 1 layer deep, where we'll play people that are 2.5 layers deep. And so if you're slow, one way to get faster is make sure you're fresher. And with rare exception, late in the season, you know, we get a bump. I mean, we're you know, even the best teams I've had, we played better late in the season. And then you know, this last year we're predominantly freshmen and sophomores, our entire team pretty much, which is good news for the future, and this is the most dynamic part of their careers. They work and develop the most, which is even more important for us as coaches, to be as precise as we can in what we teach and how we go about things. And so I think that, but we got to get as far with them as we can, because they're going to have started for 2 years, and we'll still have them around for 2 more. So that's pretty exciting too. So then, but in the during the season, we have shorter practices than most people. And, and what we'll do, and it's kind of the NFL model, and I'm not a guy that thinks the NFL has all the answers. As a matter of fact, I think the NFL's lost track of a lot of the answers they once had. But we do kind of the NFL model of how we start the week. So we'll play on Saturday. The game's concluded on Saturday. And then, and you can plug it into however the days work out, you know, whatever, whenever you play. But we, and so we'll come in as a staff, we'll watch all the film, we'll meet, and then we'll start game planning on the next team, and then we'll meet with our team. Then we'll watch the previous game, because I want that previous game over with. Good, bad, or in the middle, I want the previous game over with. And then, and so Sunday's practice, it's about half special teams. The other half is offense, defense. We're in helmets and shorts, and the entire thing lasts about an hour. Then we're off on Monday. We spend all day Monday continuing to game plan. Monday's perhaps the longest day that we have for coaches. We'll get through all of our cut-ups. We'll watch all the film, and typically on offense we'll meet around 10 p.m. sometimes earlier, sometimes later, and then we're out of there at about 2 a.m. And we have the entire weekend, and then from there it's lined out what we're going to do. Okay, then Tuesday, and the practice I'm going to really emphasize here is a Tuesday practice. And part of the reason I'm going to emphasize a Tuesday practice is because that's our heaviest day, and also that parallels what we do in the spring. That is the practice we do in the spring. So our spring practices are like this practice that I'm going to discuss, except the periods are slightly longer in the spring. And but during the season, during the spring, it'll go about 2.5 hours. Okay, during the season, it goes about 1 hour and 45 or 1 hour and 50 minutes, and we're typically in helmets, shoulder pads, and shorts. And then Wednesday, we're helmet, shoulder pads, and shorts, and that one goes about 1.5 hours. And then Thursday, we're in helmets and shorts. Starts out again, half an hour of special teams. Then we have our team period, and we want it really fast. That one lasts about 1 hour, but always, and this is maybe one of my favorite parts of the week, after that practice on Thursday, we have a thing called Thursday night football. And Thursday night football is all the guys that aren't traveling, or the guys that are traveling that aren't going to play very much. We'll go live for about 35 plays. And I think that develops our film tremendously. That's their game, and it's gotten to be such a tradition. The varsity guys are all out there cheering, some of them occasionally in huddles getting people fired up. Friday, we have a series of meetings, and whatever you do the day before a game or on Friday, we try to duplicate it as specifically as we can to whether it's a home game or an away game. The only difference is the plane ride. So what we do at home, we'll do identical at the hotel when we're on the road. And I think I don't have a magic formula for that other than make sure it's the same, make sure that it's always consistent. They know what to expect. They know, okay, now we're doing this drill, now we're doing this walkthrough, now we're doing this meeting. And I'm not a guy that wants those people silent and like statues before the game, because then it's just too tight, too constipated, too, just you got a bunch of guys just all wound up. I want them to enjoy being around each other, so we have a thing we call football time. If it's football time, you're focused, you're up in your seat, you're alert, anything that's football time. And I want them to have the ability to turn it on, anything that's football time, eliminate all distractions. So if we have a meeting, everybody's alert. Okay, then they're hanging out with each other, dinner and whatnot. I want them to enjoy themselves. Okay, then we have a walkthrough, everybody's alert, and so just a emphasis and a focus on this is what we do during football time. Here's our practice plan. And what I'm going to do, and a play that we've gotten kind of famous for is the mesh play. And so I'm going to utilize the mesh to an extent to go through this practice schedule and show you how we reinforce the elements of this play and other plays. The mesh play is a 5-step drop for us, or if we're in shotgun, he'll take 1 long, 2 short, because he ends up at about the same spot. And we're in shotgun most of the time. And then one thing that I ought to point out is our offense originally was heavily influenced by the wishbone, and by the wishbone from the standpoint in the wishbone offense, and they really did spread the field from sideline to sideline, and they were better downfield than they get credit for, because that pitch can happen a variety of times. But the key element that we drew from the wishbone was it's important for all the offensive skill positions to touch the ball. And that being the case, we want to make sure that we get good distribution to all our skill positions, and they have the opportunity to touch the ball. And I also think It's critically important to make choices, decide what you're going to be good at. You don't need 20 plays to get to the outside flat. You need 3 really good ones that you're really good at, and then constantly reinforce the techniques and skills that it take to be effective at it. And that's what we're constantly striving for and shooting for with our practice schedule. And and then the mesh play, it's a crossing route play that BYU ran a very similar version of for, well, a couple decades, and then, of course, we adopted it, and I can't say 100% the same because we adjusted a couple things, but they were the major influence. And then the other thing that they influenced us offensively on was stretching the field. Make sure you attack the entire field. Now, in my mind, the entire field, it's not, a full 100 yards, but you want to have some effectiveness going sideline to sideline, and then downfield about 30 yards. That's about what your range is. Sideline to sideline to 30 yards, and then it's a little less than that if you're in the red zone or the goal line. And then, and be able to dominate space down there and force the defense to react to it. And then as you go through your priorities and your reads, then as you create space, if you do it more often than they do, you should be able to react to it quicker than they do. And so to start out, we start out, I'm not going to be able to refer back to this very easily. So I'll run through this really quickly. When they step out onto the field, I don't want it to look like a city softball team, where guys are just ambling out and kind of rolling balls around or anything like that. We have specific drills we do. Some guys are going to come out before others, depending, when they get taped or what they have going with the trainer, but there's specific drills that they do. The receivers, we have them doing a drill called settle and noose, which I'll show and describe that drill. And then we always have blitz pickup. We always have blitz pickup. And that'll be the plays that we have in the script for that week. And they'll be attached to various blitzes, forcing the quarterback and the receivers to react when the opponent brings pressure. And then these are about 1/4 speed. We don't stretch. Dogs don't stretch, and neither do cougars. So we don't stretch. And but we warm up. We start out 1/4 speed, doing balls and skill-specific drills. Then this is pat and goes about half speed, and I'll take you through that drill, of course. But it's a half-speed drill. So the first one, that's the first 15 minutes as people are coming out. Pat and go is about 10 minutes. Then quick game. I'll describe that. That's our 3-step passing game. We select specific plays for that week and go through that. And so we pretty much cover the entire package in the course of the week. It's half of our quick game on Tuesday, half of our quick game on Wednesday, and then next is routes on air, which that goes another 10 minutes, and that's our deeper drop stuff, 5 to 7 step. Then we have a screen period, and I'm not covering the screen period. The screen period's 10 minutes. The screens, play actions, or gimmick plays that we've selected for that week. For those 10 minutes, we work on our screens. And so it's first offense versus the scout team. If we're going to cut somebody, we do cut them in screen period. There's that whole controversy, don't cut anybody. Well, we've never had a guy get injured on it. Those scouts all know they're going to get cut, and they know which one of them's going to get cut, and they protect themselves. And and it's helped our drill, and we've never had a guy get injured in it. So if we're going to cut somebody, we will cut them in this drill, and they know well ahead of time. And so on our one side screens, like our receiver screen that's kind of one-sided, for example, like if you're throwing to the wide receiver there, snap, we'll half line those so we can get through it quickly. So I'm the starting quarterback. I'll throw to the Z receiver over here. We'll execute that screen. Backup quarterback, he'll throw to the X receiver over here, same screen mirrored on that side. Then we'll trade places. So we'll half line it to get through it as quickly as we can. And then some places don't lend themselves to that, like for example, a fullback screen where there's specific responsibilities on the backside that are important. Well, then we have to have everybody together. In that 10-minute period, we will get through about 16 of them twice. And so we kind of rapid fire it. One-on-one drill, I'll cover that, and then at the end of that, we block it up. Then this is special teams, and I like having special teams split. We have 2 special teams periods. They're each 10 minutes, and so it does have a sudden change quality. All right, it's special teams. Everybody races to special teams. Okay, I go to special teams, and I work a drill with the quarterbacks, whatever the day may be. And then special teams, we have a strip drill on one of the special team sessions, and it'll be various scoop and scores, strip the ball. Okay, then we have Pascal. We'll do the first couple with the defense, even in season, the first 6 or so, and then it's with scouts, so we get the specific look that we're going to play against. And then back to special teams. Quarterbacks will work footwork drills unless they're involved in special teams, of course. Typically, quarterbacks don't have a huge role in special teams. And then we have team period, and we start that out with the first defense, and then it goes to scouts. Okay, we work on third down. So like on a Tuesday, we'll go. We'll work our open field plays and our third down plays in skill and in team. Okay, so you'll have the open field, then third down. Okay, and then on Wednesday, instead of third down, it's red zone and goal line. And then the screen period on a Wednesday is not a screen period, it's a red zone goal line period. And then, and the biggest thing is I want people moving around fast. I want them just to have a quick, natural tempo. And these drills also, we try to have as many people involved in moving as possible, and that also allows us to be shorter. So with that overview, and it's always a little clouded, and you never know what somebody else's terms or notes, and some of you probably can't even see this. And then the other thing, just to cover what we do with our offensive line, when we're having our, and it's my favorite position, I coached offensive line for 10 years, and the early period where we're doing the half-speed warm-up, the offensive line is running ropes and jumping ropes. And yes, we actually have them jump rope. Offensive linemen are big people. The best ropes to have them jump is you go down to the hardware store. You get that kind of rope they use for boats, the nylon kind that's sort of heavy. I still have scars on my fingers and thumbs from melting the ends of those ropes years ago, because you got to melt the ends, otherwise it'll all unravel. And they're kind of heavier, and you can get them longer. And these guys all have a sense of identity. This is my rope. They'll use the same rope. This is my place that I jump my rope, you know. And so jump rope, running ropes. With the linemen, we don't have the running ropes up high. We have the running ropes about 6 inches off the ground, because I don't want them over-exaggerating their steps. Offensive linemen don't take steps like this. They take little steps. And to take the big one, I don't mind them working. The fact that they have to work harder doesn't bother me. What does bother me is it distorts the other portions of the body. And then and we'll have them put their hands up as they run through the ropes. Okay, and I try to give them as much individual time as we can. The individual time always includes the Crowther sled, which I think is the best run block drill that there is. And then during routes on air, their individual drills continue. Screens, they come over there, and they're a big part of that. So we're working the first line, the second line, because we're doing each play twice. And then during one-on-one, the offensive line and running backs have the inside drill. And offensive line gets, for the most part, they get additional individual time during special teams because other than field goal PAT, a lot of them aren't involved in that. And then when we're in Pascal, they go one-on-one O-line versus D-line. So we'll line them up one-on-one, and then we'll also do twist drills. We'll have the whole line, and the defense will run whatever games they have, and then we respond to that. And then team, of course, everybody's together. The play to help illustrate this, okay, and this is, if we're in 2x2, this is basically our mesh play, okay? And so as far as the offensive line goes, and we vertical set, and I tell these offensive linemen, and we lean on this, talk about this all the time. You can pass protect if you can have your head back, your hands up, get depth, and stay square. Head back, hands up, get depth, stay square. If you can do that, and you can do it consistently, you can be a great offensive lineman. And so, and then of course, if they twist, well, head back, okay, I got my head back. Hands up, okay, yep, hands up. And we're in right-handed stances, left-handed stances, and we're off the ball. Because just like Dan talked about, defensive linemen, they're coming forward, their ass is high, they're faster than we are, we understand that. Okay, so we're off the ball, and then we're also giving up ground off the ball to buy time. Okay, so hands up, get depth, stay square. Okay, this guy starts working this way, well, I'm gonna work this way. His man starts working this way, of course, and then they, yell switch and switch it off. If your guy leaves you, get depth and look for work from the side that your guy went to. But then also have your head on a swivel because it could come from elsewhere. Typically, it comes from the side you lost your guy on. Now, and I think it's a pretty good description. They say, well, I mean, the offensive lineman, if I'm on the left side, I'm in a left-handed stance, and as soon as this foot moves, I want my hands up, head back, hands up, get depth, stay square. My guy goes here, and if I take a step with this foot, I have to take a step with this foot because I want the feet under their armpits, slightly wider than their armpits, and I want them somewhat staggered. So they have stability forward, they have stability back, and they have stability right, stability left. Some guys like it like this. I don't, because I don't feel like I have real good stability forward and back, with the feet parallel. And so I like a slight stagger so that I have a nice base if I'm pushed back or pulled forward. And then, and they always say, well, and when you bump the hip with the other offensive lineman, well, then you switch it, which is a pretty good way to describe it. It doesn't actually happen in practice consistently, but I kind of like describing it that way because they get the idea. They get the point. And rather than bail out too quick or pull out of there too early, they got a game going on. Okay, and then switch, as I knock this out of this guy. This is a quarterback here. And then, I think the mental visual of it's really pretty productive, even though I don't know that's 100% accurate in practice. Okay, this guy's going to check release. The fullback's going to check release. He checks first. Okay, so if they're in a 4-3, we're going to have the offensive line's going to have the 4 bigs and Mike, and then he'll have the linebacker to this side and then scan to this side, and then and then of course the odd. You will have the 3 bigs. The offensive line will have the 3 bigs, the 2 backers, and then he'll have the outside rusher that comes from this side scanning over to this side. But he check releases. Okay, the quarterback can read this to either side, and what he's looking for is leverage, and they'll try to disguise the leverage, and really he would like the considerations are who's the furthest off. In some cover 4 thing, they're going to kind of drop deep, and we're likely to get it underneath it. Or if they're inside leverage, that's a great place to run a corner route. So he's going to look at leverage as far as which side he starts on. And then and he can select either side. And then the other thing that he can do is he can give one a post if he feels like he can get between the safeties. And he can signal that out there. Now, and we'll cover some of those variations coming up. But the quick summary is we want him to push it 8 to 10 yards, stick his toe in the ground. We don't want it rounded like this. This is just how the graphic is. But we want him to stick his toe in the ground, explode out of his cut, and have his head around for the football. And he needs to adjust the angle of this route away from coverage. If it's man coverage and the guy's on his hip, he may bend it down kind of like this. Whereas if it's kind of a cover 3 look, well then it may be, a higher angle here because we want to be as far from the safety in the corner as we can. In our case, we have, if you're going to run then this corner is the same as this corner. If you're going to run the mesh, I believe you need a guy that sets the mesh. You don't want it just, hey, you two cross. Well, somebody's going underneath the other guy, okay? Y sets the mesh. Y is always right as far as where the mesh is set, as far as H is concerned in this case. And Y is gonna push up, takes a step up, takes this angle. We want him to get across quick and decisively. It's more important that he's decisive than it is that he's perfect. But there's nothing that'll overcome not being decisive. He has to be decisive because there will be all kinds of things where, well, this, that, and the other thing, and well, it's not perfect. I wish you would have done this, that, or the other thing. If he's not decisive, it's no good. Okay, so we're shooting for 6 yards or the front of Mike, whichever comes first. If Mike's at 3, go in front of Mike. But in front of the Mike backer or 6 yards, whichever comes first. H is always going to come underneath Y. H is always going to come underneath Y. Okay. And then the important thing is they go fast. None of this tiptoe, try to be perfect. We understand you're not going to be perfect. Make sure you're fast. And then the difference between these guys crossing 1.5 yards apart and like this, is huge. We want them as tight as they can possibly be, as tight as they can possibly be. And even as I describe this right now, well, 1.5 yards should be pretty good. That's not that bad. Oh, what's the difference between that and say 1 foot or 6 inches? Just trust me, it's big. As far as them sorting it out, it's big. And then, and if you break down the clips of the, decent mesh, we're 1.5 yards, 2 yards as we meshed across each other. Okay, these guys are 1 foot 6 inches across. The results are different. And then Okay, if it's man coverage, they're going to keep running. If it's man coverage, they're going to keep running. If it's zone coverage, after they cross, not before, and this is sometimes a mistake that's made. A guy will start running here, he'll see a hole and he'll stop. Well, if they're blitzing, you want him to have his head around as he's pushing upfield hard, expect the football, because we might throw him the football there in a hot type of situation, or him, either one, but he can't slow down and he can't settle early. He has to go as fast as he can. After he meshes, if you come to a hole, sit. If you don't come to a hole and you're being chased, keep running. And then just to help the angle of this thing, if they get outside the hash, say, we'd like them to bend it up slightly so we can put it over the top, but that's not something that's an issue a lot, because usually it happens quicker than that. So the quarterback, depending which of these he selects, he's going to read this guy first. If he's got the corner right away, he's going to throw it. Okay, then I've had two types of quarterbacks. And I've had smart ones and dumb ones that can do either one. You know, some smarter than others. I actually haven't had a dumb quarterback, but some, you know, one guy that was brilliant that struggled with it, one guy that wasn't as brilliant that didn't struggle with it. What I would like to happen, and you have to figure out how the guy learns and how he sees. I'd like him when he hits the last step, ready to fire the corner. If he doesn't have the corner, I'd like him to be able to see space and see both mesh players, you know, like just sort of snapshot the field and have a little peripheral vision going. And quarterbacks have a love-hate relationship with this play. They love the completions. They love that bails them out of a lot of stuff. But what they don't like is there's a lot of commotion in front of them, and there's a certain amount of uncertainty with it. And so the best ones are the guys that can snapshot the field and say, okay, more space here than here, so I'm throwing it here. Okay, corner out here, corner out here. You know, if they can't do that, I've never had success, very good success fighting City Hall on that. If they can't do that, then he's still number one. He's two. He's three, he's four, and then this guy's just blowing the top off the coverage. I mean, it's a scramble situation if you end up dealing with him because he's dealt himself out of it. Okay, so, but what I would prefer is whatever side he starts on, say he starts on this side, then this guy's one, both of these together is two, and then the back's three. That's what I would prefer. But if they're not able to do that, then they read first the corner, second the mesh to their side, and then third the back side of the mesh, fourth the back. But you don't want some guy, and you can tell if he goes back there and his head's going like this, no, he's just got to read one at a time. Okay, settle and noose, and this is this applies to all of our plays, all of our horizontal routes. You know, there's horizontal routes and vertical routes. Horizontal routes you catch like this, and then vertical routes, of course, with the pinkies together over the shoulder. And then, but we want to really enforce catching it in the hands, and that's something as a team we have to do better. We're a little sloppy about catching it in the hands right now, you know. So, a lot of it's, we just have to coach them. We got a lot of youth, so we have to coach and be more conscientious on it. Now, so this is 1/4 speed. So we want them in a great stance. This represents a zone right here. The quarterback is deliberately on a line so he can check his footwork. So we want him to foot fire, work a release, and some of it's mental rehearsal. Okay, he's going to work back and forth in the zone. That's what the receiver's doing. Okay, and then he's going to have both hands together, catch, tuck, and turn and go straight upfield. Okay, now in the meantime, what the quarterback's doing, we want him to drop down the line right here. Okay, and keep in mind, this is 1/4 speed. The quarterback's arm's not warmed up, so we have him just throwing little 10-yard passes is what he's doing basically. And a lot of times we'll bring the centers up here. This is a good time to do center quarterback exchange if you don't have the offensive lineman doing something somewhere else. And you'd be surprised how many people we get, or even that have been around for a while, that don't drop straight back. They'll take a drop, but it's not straight back. It'll be some, you know, at an angle or something like that. So we want this line down here to be a reference point for their feet. Ideally, I would like this foot a little more to the left and this foot here, the back foot a little more to the right, because where I want him to end up, approximately, okay, you know, we want him to go straight back, but one long, two short. Okay, then I want this foot on this side of the line because I want this hip open at about a 45-degree angle. If I'm like this, I can see this side of the field great. I can throw to this side of the field great, but my shoulder's closed off from this side of the field. So by having this foot here, I'm open and better position to see here, 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 and I have a wider range of vision. And also I'm in a better position to make this throw here, but because it doesn't take much to transition and make this throw here. So I want their front shoulder open. And then the other thing that we work on here is kind of wrist snap. We want the ball high. We want the ball high, you know, all this business here. I want the ball up here. They don't have anything better to do. Have the ball up here because you can throw the ball quickly like this from here a lot easier than you can, you know, raising the thing up. And so they don't have anything better to do with their hands anyway. And if they think that's hard, try being a receiver and running, you know, 40 yards downfield every other play. So, and then he wants to put the ball on the number that's away from coverage. So we're saying this is a coverage guy. This number is furthest from coverage, is further from coverage than this one. So we want him to put it on this number here. Now the receiver's going to decide and settle closer to one dummy than the other. Okay, then the quarterback needs to put it on the number away from coverage, and then the receiver turns and goes straight upfield. No guessing, no dancing, none of that stuff. Catch, tuck, turn, and go straight upfield. And as coaches here, we'll emphasize footwork. We'll emphasize on the throw. We especially want a good wrist snap with the thumb down because, you know, you can throw the ball. They can throw the ball literally with their arms straight up and like this, that throw there for 10 yards. And so we will emphasize that some. So as coaches, we're emphasizing quarterback's footwork. Is he carrying the ball high? Does he turn the thumb down so it comes off the front finger? Does he put it on the number away from the dummy? And then he turns and goes straight upfield. And then, of course, if he were to settle closer to this dummy, we'd want it on the opposite number, and then he'd turn and go straight upfield that way. Because there's times that a receiver doesn't necessarily know where the coverage is or where it's adjusted. He knows he got to a hole. He knows he came into a hole. And then the quarterback, by putting it on that number, that says turn that way, go upfield that way. And so, you know, an extra 5 yards or whatever it may equal, or even an extra step where you break a tackle can be very valuable. And then with the receiver, we're emphasizing stance, footwork on the release, catching the ball in your hands, tucking it, and protecting the ball. And so a couple clips of this. Okay, this is blitz pickup. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but suffice it to say that this isn't a real fast drill. We'll set the defense, whatever we're going to face that week, and they do all their blitzes, and then our offensive linemen respond to it, and the quarterback has to recognize blitz and get the ball out quickly. This one, I think he's throwing the corner route, which is fine. Everybody thinks blitz control has to be some short little 3-yard throw. I mean, that's good sometimes, especially if the route's replacing where the blitzer came from and you got all kinds of space. That's a hell of a deal. But a lot of first reads, including verticals, can be the blitz read. I mean, you just have to be, it has to be a quick throw. So his hot's right here. And, you know, he selected this side to throw to pre-snap. The reason he selected this side is because this guy's off an inside leverage. So that's, you know, fairly clever by the quarterback. So, and so we cover all of these, and we tag the blitzes to our plays, and then as the week goes on, we'll change up the different blitzes to different plays, and just to get the offense to kind of respond in unison to it. It's not a real fast-paced drill. I'm doing this within the context of this play. Obviously, we apply how we're going to react to the blitz and whatnot to all, you know, our entire package we have in that week. But, you know, in the interest of time, here's the mesh play. All right, pat and go, and I think nearly everybody in America does this drill, and the thing that I think is important is what we emphasize in this drill. And again, the quarterback's arms aren't fully warmed up. Now we're half speed. This is almost like a hot look or a slant. Quarterback's going to pat the ball, take one step. He's going to run a slant. We want to put it on the upfield number of the receiver here. This would be one of them. There's one here too. And then, of course, they take the ball. See, we want them to work a foot fire. We want them to catch it in their hands. We want them to tuck it. And in here, we're emphasizing ball security. Are you carrying the ball well? Is a point higher in the back of the ball? Are you keeping it high and tight? Is it close to the body? And then, you know, occasionally a coach will go grab at it. We want them to cover it with 2 hands in traffic. Okay, and so, and we'll do this to each side. And it's kind of a combination of quarterbacks warming up their arms, receivers warming up their legs, and then we'll get through this portion. So after they've done this briefly for not too long, then we go 3 steps. Then instead of being on the hash, the receivers go out to the numbers. And there's a couple things that are important here. Okay, one is when they come off, we want them catching the ball over the outside shoulder. Okay, so we're going to say that the quarterback's in here. As I run this route, I want to attack the outside number of the defender. We don't have defenders here, but we're working on the throw. We want to attack the outside number of the defender. We start at the top of the numbers, and we really don't want him lower than the bottom of the numbers. He needs to fight for position so he's not lower than the bottom of the numbers. At times, it looks like they get lower than the bottom of the numbers when they don't, because the throw carries them further off the bottom of the numbers. And at times, they just get their ass kicked, and they're further than the bottom of the numbers. But don't let the throw fool you. Sometimes they're reacting to the throw. And so I want to lean on the defender, and you can even drive into the guy. And one mistake that we make, you can flat out drive into the guy because he's got to respect the fact you might be running a post or a dig or something like that, because he's going to loosen to a point. and he really doesn't have any choice as you're trying to preserve space to the outside. So I want to drive into his outside number. I want to preserve space to the outside. I want to look into the quarterback, and then without putting my hands up too early, because that telegraphs you're about to catch the ball. And the other thing is, if I put my hands up too early, it slows down my path to the ball. Incidentally, one good point there that from my experience, if you get a guy that's always a step short on vertical balls, you know, relatively fast guy, but always a step short, always almost got there. He's a step short, he's a step short, he's a step short. Well, he's fast enough. Why the hell is he a step short? And even I've gone to the quarterback. Why do you always throw and overthrow so-and-so? Well, but if you look at it close, what's happening a certain amount of the time is you know, the ball's thrown, so I should be catching over my outside shoulders, put the hands up at the last minute. Well, but then you get these guys that, okay, the ball's thrown, but it's about the midpoint in the air, and they're doing this. Well, you can't run as fast like this, see? And so then and you'll find those guys, if they put their hands up too early, a lot of times that's a problem, and that's why they're always the step short guy, okay? And so at any rate, leaning on his outside number, not even afraid to sell post, looking in at the quarterback. Okay, the quarterback wants to put the ball with air over my outside shoulder, and you really can't have too much air. I mean, they all think they can. They all, you know, they'll come in. I mean, we're about to see it in spring. They all worked out. They're all stronger. They all threw a bunch of balls, and hey, I throw darts. No, we're going to try to mitigate any flaws in the route, the play. You put air under this ball, and we don't care whether you like it or not. Okay, so he's leaning here, and then and we're also working on the transition of this catch. You watch the ball in the air. The transitioning of the eyes into the hands is a different catch than a horizontal catch that's like this. And really, in catching the ball, the fingers should never be anywhere but either like this or like this. Okay, that's the only ways the hand should be. And then, so catching it over the outside shoulder. Now, and you get this with tall guys in particular, ball be up, the tall guy wants to go like this. Well, there's no sense in exposing that ball unnecessarily. So the same ball that a guy's catching like this, you can catch like this, okay? But now the defender's here, I'm protecting the ball with my body, and he can't contest the ball. If I go up like this, and he can claw, scratch, and contest the football. So we're pretty dogmatic about that being the technique that we're going to do it. Okay, and he's got reasonable air on the ball. See, watch his head, good eye transition. Put his hands up at the last second. I like that. And so they're going about 3/4 speed, and they're doing it here too. And the other thing, you'll find that some guys are just really weak at this catch. But the techniques that we want are important to us on this. And I don't like flat balls. And I don't want any balls. I don't want them to overthrow the receiver. And I don't want flat balls either. And if anything, I want them to exaggerate the air on the ball. Because a big portion of it is we're working on the receivers transitioning their eyes. Okay, so, and then you think about this, you know, okay, so say he's got the defender pinned here. If that quarterback can hit approximately a 10-yard radius in front and outside the receiver, throw it, drop it in it, I tell them 5 yards. I tell them 5 yards because they all think, so if you can hit a 5-yard radius, but even 10, that lets him keep this guy pinned and adjust to the ball, all of a sudden, oh my God, the quarterback's so accurate. Well, how's he so accurate? Well, part of it, he puts air on the ball and he's letting him do half the work, you know? Where if you're putting it on a rope, I mean, the intersection between the ball and his route has to be nearly perfect. Okay, so we're trying to mitigate mistakes. Maybe he lost a step because he got rerouted. Maybe this ball's not quite as accurate as you'd like. Well, if you can hit a 5-yard circle here, he can adjust to it and he can make you right. It has to be in front, has to be outside. Okay, routes on air. My single favorite drill. This is my favorite drill that we do. One thing, and it's on the practice schedule, and we're not covering because the mesh is a 5-step drop. But on quick game, I'll just tell you on quick game because I think it's an incredible drill. What we do is we line up and there's 4 quarterbacks. Okay, we got all 4 quarterbacks throwing, and you might run the stick route. This guy outside's vertical. This guy here runs an option, or you might have double slants. You might have this guy's vertical and this guy's an out. Well, so I'm quarterback 1. Here's 2. Here's 3. Here's 4. I'm going to catch it. We're all going to drop back. I throw it to this guy. Okay, then we rotate. I throw it to the guy in the flat, then we rotate, and I throw it to this guy in the flat, then we rotate, and I throw it to him. All right, next play. And so we can rapid fire through that play. Every quarterback is thrown to every receiver in the play, and every receiver is catching a ball. There's 4 receivers going, 4 balls going. Once in a while, we have 6. And then we'll have the coach throw to the guy in the flat. Like, on a stick route, say, where you have the back involved, and then we just sort of half line it. So vertical here, option here, flat here, same thing over here. Everybody rotates, but the coach throws to the guy, the running back. This is similar, but it's for, it's really good for zone. You can set the zone whatever zone you want. These dummies represent defenders, of course. Okay, and then here's the quarterbacks. We have 5 quarterbacks throwing. So every receiver runs a route, every quarterback throws a ball, every receiver gets a ball, and the quarterback goes through his progression. So, and this is 2x2. So this would be the mesh play 2x2. He's got a corner, he's got a corner. These guys are meshing the backs to the flat. So each receiver's getting a ball. And then you want him to prioritize their reads. I mean, if he goes back here and this is first read and he's on the 3rd read, you want his eyes here, then you want him here, then you want him here. And so the ball should be thrown in order. You can't tell, where's his eyes, but you can tell if the balls are thrown in order. And this play kind of screws that up because the quarterback here, he's viewing this corner as his first read. But so what I'm saying is, if you have a play where he's not selecting one side, we're famous for Y cross. Well, this guy's vertical, this guy's in the flat, he's running here, and then he's running a dig. Well, so if I'm the first quarterback, drop back, throw to the first read, then I want my eyes to go to the 2nd read, the 3rd read, the 4th read, the 5th read, so I work my eye progression. Okay, and then they're going to rotate after the first one so that you throw to a different receiver this time around. And so say I'm the quarterback in the 5th position. Well, you drop back, your eyes are on the 1st read, then your eyes are on the 2nd read, then your eyes are on the 3rd read, then your eyes are on the 4th read, then you throw the 5th read. So if the balls are thrown in order, they're probably going through their progression. So, and so then here, in this particular day, we have coaches here so that the mesh guys have to read whether it's man or zone. So they're reacting to man or zone. So if the coaches drop, well, it's zone. I came to a hole. I meshed. I came to a hole, settle, catch, tuck, turn, and go straight upfield. Okay, and then sometimes, and then of course if they run with them, here's the coaches again. If they run with them, and see this represents a big ass mic that'll hit you. You try to stay away from these 3. because he has the strength of 3 men, okay? And so then, and this is 3 by 1. They zoned it here too. Okay, but okay, out of 3 by 1, just how we do it out of 3 by 1, or one way we do it. And the thing is just by tagging one route, we can get a lot of dimension out of it. Outside guy's got the corner. This number 2 guy's got a post. You have to either read the corner or the post. You don't have time to read both. You have to select one. Typically, we read the corner. Okay, so if the corner's in, the post is out. If the post is in, the corner's out. Okay, you have to pick. And then these guys are going to mesh, same rules. Y sets the mesh, either 6 yards or in front of Mike, whichever happens first. And then you read the corner, read the mesh, read the back. And then again, all five throwing, all 5 receivers catching, all 5 running. Now, the other thing, and this is a rapid fire thing, so these guys have just caught the ball, turned upfield. Okay, now these guys are going to get their ass out of the way and come back along these sidelines. And as we speak, there's other receivers running up to the line of scrimmage, getting in position for the next play, and then the quarterbacks are shifting down one space so that, okay, let's see, I had the first read that last play. Now I have the second read. Now I have the third read, and so it goes. And typically we do this about 30 reps. Okay, here's man. See, the coaches are giving him man. So that they have to work on continuing to run. That's not a very good catch there, is it? All right, this is just trips the other side, same thing. He's got the corner, he's got the post. And this post does have a tendency to open up the corner or vice versa. It's not like they can cover both. And then you select whether it's going to be the corner or the post. And then these guys are going to mesh. And then the back goes to the flat. And if for some protection thing, the back happens to be on this side, running to the flat on this side, that suits me just fine. I really don't care what side the back's on. Occasionally, scheme-wise, maybe. Typically, I don't care. The quarterback's got to know where he is, though. And again, zone. Okay, so, well, here's one. We haven't had this one. Okay, here's 2 backs. Pro split backs. Okay, he's going to run a post. These 2 guys are still meshing. He's got a post. Both backs are wheeling. Okay, the backs on the wheels are good. One, to hit a wheel. It's always fun to hit a wheel. But the other thing is it spreads the defense out, and so you have more space on the mesh. Okay, so here he's reading the post, reads the post first, wheel second, mesh third, and then, or he reads the post first, the backside wheel second, and the mesh third. To get to the backside wheel, it's most helpful if we get that from up top. Did you have a question?
I noticed the receivers that are meshing kind of slap hands. Is that to get...
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I kept talking about them being tight, that I want them tight. This sounds lame. Some guys will think they're too good for it, and then, of course, you get on their ass. Some guys will really like it because, hey, it's like a fraternity. We're in a club, you know. But one good way to have them make sure they're tight is tell them they have to slap hands. Going full speed, hauling ass, you have to slap hands as you're meshing. I like that. And then, and then I've had them do it in the game too, which I don't mind a bit. You know, I mean, if you're close enough to do that, I don't want any of this hand slapped like this. It needs to be in here close. And it's a pretty good way. Here's the other thing. See, some things you draw up, and on the board it looks really easy and simple, and the mesh looks easy and simple. It has to be practiced every day. Okay, you're saying, Okay, 6 yards in front of Mike, just go really close, go across each other, and then sit or keep running. That's easy, that's simple, anybody can do it, right? Wrong. You have to do it every day. You have to mess with it every day. And then other things you get asked about are, in fact, they seem complex and they are simple, you know. How do you teach your center to shotgun snap? It's the toughest thing, blah, blah. There ain't nothing tough about it. You know, you tell them a couple things, and then you wake up the next day and you can probably do it, you know. And you know, so when we first got into this, I thought, it'd be impossible. I'll have to train this all the time, which, you know, we rep it a lot, but the thing is, I've always found shotgun snaps easy. This is a maintenance item because they're going to want to slow down. They're going to want to not be decisive. They're not going to want to be as tight, even the best teams I've had at it. Constant maintenance item. Worth it. I mean, if I didn't think it was worth it, I wouldn't do it. So the wheels, I think there's two benefits to the wheels. One is to actually hit the wheel, but the other is by these wheels coming like this, the defenders tend to spread out with these wheels, which creates more space, and the mesh route guys have a tendency to go further. The other thing on wheels, especially with all this four shell stuff, these guys drop them way back. You may hit your wheel underneath. You know, just stick him with the football and it may be underneath the defender. Don't be afraid to do that. Part of it's getting your backs on the same page so they expect it and react to it that way, which is an issue for us right now, honestly. You know, well, hey, you had the wheel underneath. Well, he wasn't looking. Well, hey, you know, if you got a lot of space, be looking because he might throw you the wheel. So we're going through all that, you know.
What's the first read on the wheel?
On the post is first. Okay, the post is first, and the post is first, and then it's one of the wheels. If without further instruction, it's the play side wheel, because you've blown the top off the coverage here, then there's a wheel here, then next the play side wheel, and then ideally you can snapshot the mesh, but if you can't, I've had brilliant quarterbacks that can't, just, you know, they're type A, they're all wound up, well, it's got to be perfect, well, I don't know where it is. Well, they're not very good at that. Then this mesh guy, then this mesh guy, and then the other wheel's out. Okay, now you can still start with the backside wheel, but then the front side wheel's out. Post, backside wheel, mesh, yeah.
Is it always a 5-amp protection, or do you sometimes?
No, on that, well, on that, it could be 7 because the backs are going to check release. Even the wheel guys are going to check release. And then, so if you got 2 backs, then it's 7 man. And then it's always at least 6. But I want them out. You know, don't linger. If your guy doesn't come, you get out, you know. Because if they don't bring somebody and you fail to get out, then whatever the play is, regardless of what the play is, you don't have the stretch in the space you would otherwise. And sometimes on plays, kind of like base drop back plays, if all of a sudden it feels like you're throwing in a phone booth the whole time, well, everything's so tight, they're just such tight throws. Well, you'll go back and look at film, and your backs in particular, oh, I mean, they're running their little flare routes and stuff, but, you know, they're halfway between the hash and the numbers. Well, no. You get to the bottom of the numbers. And if they get all the way there to the bottom of the numbers, then all of a sudden there's a lot, but you got a ton of space because they have to get out there and they have to account for them and they have to be near them. And so make sure your backs, like if they're running shoot routes or swing routes, that they're getting to the bottom of the numbers, whether they're getting the ball or not. Because then you got more space for all the rest of the play. And if you feel like, you know, there's no room for anything, that's the first place you look, and a lot of times the backs aren't getting as wide as you'd like. Okay, then we do one-on-one drill. And typically with routes on air, we're working zone, you know, so that play with zone, okay? And then here, they just, in one-on-one, they'll give them the plays of the day, but this particular one, 92. Here's a corner in man-to-man coverage. And so this is our one-on-one drill. And, you know, it's remarkably similar to virtually everybody else's. And then, so, yeah, there's a corner route. He didn't catch it in his hands. Here's a mesh. The defensive guys will all about this too. You know, and it kills me. Now, with all due respect to some of you guys that are defensive guys, and I was a defensive guy for a while, and loved every minute of it because there's collisions and actions and you're beating up on the other guy, but it just kills me. So you'll run a route like this in one-on-one, and they will like hell. And they'll say, because see, watch this, because they act like they don't have to ever cover this, okay? And so then they'll say, yeah, but my defensive end is standing right there. Oh, really? Your defensive end's standing right there? I'll bet you're getting a hell of a pass rush with him standing right there, and he didn't come upfield at all, you know? Well, our quarterback's standing right back here. It's great you don't have to be threatened by your defensive end because he's standing right there, so we'll throw it to somebody else. And then, but anyways, and the recreational benefit of throwing this just to hear him squawk from time to time is well worth it. Oh, that would have hit him right in the, you know. Because the line of scrimmage is being reestablished this way. So despite the fact it's artificial in this drill, with regard to managers snapping balls, it's still pretty accurate. This is one thing that, like you say, well, what's something really good you do, or something like in analyzing practice schedules, what we can improve on, what we can maximize. This is one of them. Okay, and so how we do our one-on-one period, and I have a stopwatch, and all the stopwatch is for is so I can kind of evenly distribute the drill. So like I have my first two quarterbacks, and so you know, they'll do the open field routes, and after a minute and a half I'll flop them so that they each throw the right side and then the left side, and then we'll go to the goal line. I don't do the red zone. The goal line's tighter and you know, a place that needs more emphasis, and so you know, that's where the field's really reduced. Okay, so then and then you know, about a minute and 15 seconds on one side, then I rotate them, minute and 15 seconds to the other side. So open field and goal line and this aspect of it, we get through it in about 8 to 10 minutes, and it's a heck of a deal. And now it was always, well, where do we put stock blocking in? How do we get stock blocking? And then of course, you know, you talk to people. Well, we use these shields and we just hold them in front of them and they stock block. We used to do that. We did it for years. And, you know, I mean, you know, I've got daughters that can stock block somebody just holding a shield like this, okay? Because it's not moving, it's not competitive, it's not. And so in order to get good reps with it, here's what we started doing. Some people think this is a screen drill for us. It's not. I mean, it helps the screen. It certainly doesn't hurt the screen. But as soon as we do the goal line portion, we flip it around and we get this in. This is part of the 10 minutes too. So here's two defenders. These two defenders are playing and these three receivers are playing. Okay, one of the receivers is going to be a ball carrier. Okay, we don't tell the defense which one's going to be the ball carrier. And then, so one of them's going to be the ball carrier. The other two are going to block. So what the defense is working on is shedding blocks and reacting to the ball carrier, because you need a point of reference. Who has the ball? You know, who am I taking an angle to? So you need a ball carrier out there. Okay, so he's going to get the ball. Okay, so these guys block. He's got the ball. They're trying to block their ass off, and he's trying to, you know, he's trying to get in there and get in position where he can tackle him. And we work this all the time. This is one of the best drills we do. I want their ass low, eyes on the target point, run your feet. And one of the most important things is run your feet. So this is pretty, pretty good by him. He's too high. He ran his feet, so it saved him. Okay, now he's getting the ball. And the quarterback just signals it. And he does it subtly, like in between plays. He does it subtly so the defense doesn't know. And we've always been, we've been pretty good at blocking with our receivers. And honestly, we make a huge, if somebody doesn't block well, I mean, it's a federal case, I'm telling you. And this is a receiver screen here. So like in screen drill, to give you an idea, this one would be half lined. So we go in the middle of the field if we were doing the screen drill. Center, guard, tackle, 2 or 3 receivers here. These guys block, this guy catches. And then over here there's another center, another guard, another tackle. So we can rapid fire as we're getting that in during screen drill. One thing important on those receiver screens is it's not important to throw the ball hard. It's important to get the ball from the center's ass to the receiver's hands as quickly as possible. And you don't want it to be a heavy ball. Now, yeah, we do that sometimes too. In other words, so see, he can hand this if he wants to.
How does he know whether to hand it or throw it? What's the read on that?
Well, they got 6 in the box. Well, the 2 things. They got 6 in the box here for one, so we're outnumbered. That doesn't mean you're not going to get yards. And then the other thing is out here. Really, it's just numbers and leverage. So then out here, this guy's playing off. We have 3, they have 2. So so if we run it in here, it's 6 on 5. Okay, if we throw it out here, it's 2 on 3, and this guy's off. And this guy's thinking about being inside leverage right here. So, I mean, it's just where we got the best value.
Your lineman always go on the ball?
Usually. Not always. Usually, though. And then, and this guy here, of all the quarterbacks I've had, he's the best at getting it from the center's ass to the receiver's hands. He's uncanny quick at it. I don't know what he was. He's kind of a tall kid, and a lot of times tall kids are slower at that. But because he's a skinny 6'4" guy. He's 6'4", 126 pounds, and so. Yeah, well, generally not. They try to be, generally not. And then if he is going to be, then this guy's going to cut him. Then these guys will sell, run, and cut him. And we can also go to where, okay, on the screens, either run the screen or check the run. In other words, where he does either or, where it's not kind of a dual thing, you know what I mean? So, and then how you do that, which is pretty easy, it'd be, well, in our case, it'd be, it would be Z Randy 35, and so you go Z Randy opposite 35. So if he goes up there and says opposite, that means they're running 35. If he doesn't say opposite, then it'd be Z Randy. So if that guy gets to be an issue and you have to tend to him, then it's not packaged together the same thing. Typically, that guy's not a problem. But with one thing though, with as often as we throw it, we're not like everybody else where this guy's going to slam down with the tackle. They're thinking, a lot of teams, it's just like these guys are doing it. Screw this, we're going to come upfield. Here's another one. Yeah. See, this guy did come down. Okay, then game clips. All right, so this guy's inside leveraging off, so he started on this side. That's a good choice. First read, hits him. This mesh is not as tight as I would like. This guy, and it's not his fault, because he's always right on setting the mesh. It's always his job to be on Y's hip, and you can select whoever you want. But somebody's the guy that sets it, somebody's the guy that has to make sure it's tight. He's the guy that's supposed to make sure it's tight. That's not very good. And maybe he's planning to correct up there, but he sees the ball thrown. But that's kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt. That guy does have kind of a burst. He's a skinny guy too, but he's got kind of a burst. Yeah, he was the guy that caught the winning touchdown against Arizona and, ran right upfield through the two guys. Okay, this one here. And this is a pretty good job putting air on it. So, yeah, he doesn't have, and here's what perhaps goes in. He doesn't have a lot of space to throw the corner here. Starts here knowing that he's got a shot at a mesh here. Okay, then just puts air on it, just drops it in that circle right there. This is 2x2 again. I've got other ones on here, so out of other formations that I'm kind of waiting on to get. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Throw it, These were going to work out too here, though. 6 yards or Mike, whatever comes first. In this case, 6 yards comes first. Reasonably tight mesh. Either one of them's going to be open. Don't run out of bounds. I hate that. This guy here. What's he doing running out of bounds? He needs to push upfield and then when he gets to the sideline, cut back hard and hope that this guy's pursuit angle has got his weight distributed so he can't redirect. Okay, here's a 3x1, corner here, post here, mesh here. And this post does sort of disrupt him and foul him up. Now this guy starts out giving us good leverage. He's often inside, which helps us. Okay, now our mesh guys. This guy should use his hands and not get rerouted quite like that. This guy's going to have a shot coming underneath.
That post too shallow.
Yeah, you want the post to basically be 10, and you want him, he gets rerouted and just sort of wusses out, in my opinion. But you want this thing to break about here, because you want to affect this guy and affect the safety. That's what you'd like. You want to affect him and affect him. And so his failure to do that doesn't really affect him. And where that becomes significant, see, if he does affect him and we catch this and we make this guy miss, then he doesn't make the tackle. And all and the inclination is say, well, that's a great reception. Well, you don't know when that safety effect is going to come in handy, because if he does manage to make that guy miss, it's the difference between a good reception and a touchdown. Well, here's another 3x1 from this side. See, this post is better, or this post is better. We did it with this. See, you can kind of change up your personnel on it, so that's kind of fun too. We did the post with the number 3 guy. This is a better post. And he affects 3 people on this one, you see. So that's not half bad. See, so he runs a pretty good post. We're not looking at him on this case anyway. So he affects him, he affects him, he affects him. That's pretty good value there. We would have had a shot here if we threw it quickly. He kind of got rerouted, like right here as he gets shoved. You don't know if he's going to come out of it, so he probably moved on from there. Then here's the the mesh, which isn't perfect, but there's a lot of space to run. And he certainly impacts these two. And then here's a pretty good shot at throwing the mesh. And this is a fairly tight mesh, 6 yards deep. Settle and noose drill, catch, tuck, turn, go straight up field. Let's see if we, yeah. Another 3x1. We got some 2-backs too. I'd kind of like, here they just sort of watch, but then the mesh is pretty good here. He's going to end up scrambling and throw to the back, I think. Yeah, there it is. If he does a little better job of shuffling in the pocket, because we want him to the middle part of the space, rather than, you want him to step up, but in this case, if he shuffles here, he should probably be able to hit that, which that's going to be pretty good. But nevertheless, he scrambles and hits this guy for a productive play. See, he bounces this way too, which I'm not a fan of. You want him straight back. And that's what we're trying to reinforce and settle and noose too. We just, just got to stay with it, and and part of this whole thing is you need to keep doing the same things over and over again and just do them better, and that's where we're at. Okay, here's 2-backs. Okay, yeah. Okay, this is 2-backs with a corner. We don't post him here. Give him a corner. They mesh. So then, of course, he's reading the corner, reading the mesh, reading the back. Good throw and catch to this guy. And this isn't a bad shot. And line, if you get into too much with the O-line's a series of corrections and techniques that are critical. So O-line is almost a separate lecture by itself. Head back, hands up, get depth, stay square. This is a reasonably good shot of people doing this against a really good front.
So if they're uncovered, they're just going straight back.
Well, they're going to go, so that's his guy. They're going to go straight back, and then they're going to find work. So he's looking to go help out with this because we want to, and this ball gets off quick because it goes to the first read. But if he'd held the ball, then if his guy doesn't come, then he wants to go either whack this guy or whack this guy who's ever having the toughest time. So for example, a nose guard should be, if they don't blitz much, this guy should be hit by 2 people most of the time. The first one is the initial guy, but then I don't have anything, I go hit him. The trouble is he's catching and throwing this one, so he's getting ready to engage somebody, but the ball goes off too quick. And you see this guy here, the right guard, he's getting ready to go over here. It's just that the ball, that's a corner out too. And either of these mesh guys are bound to be open. It just doesn't go that far because we have the first read. Just waiting for a post here. These are all corners. Good job getting it to the back here. Oh, yeah, here it is. No wonder I couldn't find it. All right, tags. Yeah, this was year before. Okay, this is, okay, he's got a post, he's got a wheel, so these guys are still meshing, but he's posting, he's wheeling. Okay, now, he would wheel over here, except he's got protection first. He has to check first. So on paper, how this is he's got a post, he's got a wheel, these guys mesh it, and he's got a wheel over here, but he has to check release first. So he looks at his side, he has nothing. Then over here, he's got a guy who's got a block. Okay, this is, again, these guys have the mesh. He's going to post it, he's going to wheel it. And, you know, these wheels are kind of handy, even if you're not throwing it to the wheel, because it makes this guy, this guy go wider here. We end up hitting this guy. And this is kind of an example of hitting this number away from coverage. Coverage is closer here. Quarterback hits this number here. He turns and goes straight upfield this way. That's a pretty good shot of it here. Okay, hit the number away from coverage, tell him to go straight upfield that way. Whether he knows where this guy is or this guy is, by the ball hitting on this number, it means turn that way. If it's so like if it's an odd front, which this isn't, and this guy's uncovered, he'll duel the linebacker and the inside linebacker and the outside linebacker, and because you want the backs to get out. So even though this isn't odd, let's say it is. Here's the nose. Center would have the nose. This guy we're going to say is uncovered. He'd have him. To say the outside backer if this guy was walked, or even if he's loose, that's fine. So if this guy comes, he's got him, and then the back checks this guy. If this guy doesn't come, then he immediately looks out to this guy so we can get the back out as fast as possible.
Coach, in 3x1, is the running back, which way is he doing the wheel? Is he going to the 3 side or the 1 side?
The running back's going to the 1 side because the running back's going to the 1 side. So let's say we have 3 over here. Okay, one of these 2 is going to do the wheel on this side. One of the either the number 2 receiver or the number 3 receiver is going to do the wheel on this side. So then the back's going to do it on that side. Yep. Now, one thing that's kind of fun, I haven't done it for a while, but it's too bad it's not 3x1. We're talking about all kinds of stuff that doesn't exist on the screen. But if we got 3 receivers here, okay, he's got the post, he's got the wheel, he meshes. We've also done stuff where we'll leave the back here, and after all that's happened, we'll flood it over here with this back going over here to that side. And you'll be, I mean, there's nobody on him. He's just standing there. Best runner on the field, just standing there, you know. And it doesn't work on everybody. But well, what you're saying is when you do that, we can outnumber them here because they're all going to drop off. Or if he's here and he wheels it here, it helps stretch this stuff out and makes him cover more space. So that's your trade-off. It is kind of fun to do, though, and it is a good change-up also. There we posted it. This is 2x2. So like 2x2, as I mentioned, and against one safety, it's pretty good. So instead of this guy running the corner like he usually does, now he's running a post. Because see, here, and here's why. See this corner, they're trying to bait us in. They're trying to bait us in to running something outside. Because watch his technique, he's going to go outside at the snap. Well, then as we pick that up, then you give him a post. Yeah, I know he's inside leverage, but give him a post anyway, because watch what this guy's doing. And that's something you got to pick up from up top. So they're trying to basically trying to talk us out of the inside and then take away the outside. Okay, so by alignment, yeah, you guys don't want to go inside, I'm standing here. But then screw this, I'm not really covering inside, I'm going to attack you outside. But then, you know, if you catch them, well, then it's like, yeah, see, we know you're going to do that. This is just a scramble. We're gonna see. Here's a guy. This guy's got a wheel here, except for the thing is there's no space here, so he's sort of setting it down. Then he ends up scrambling, and then on the scramble drill, it's a hell of a throw. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. It's an honor to be here, and you know, it's like everybody said, this is a hell of a profession. You know, it's different than some professions. You know, people.